Hey everyone, Ian Sagstetter here. Welcome to the fourth edition of the ZLDR, where we're going to cover just some of the latest Zcash news and then give a little spiel at the end of it. Welcome, and it's been a while, so it's glad to be back and recording this. If I have some background noise, I want to apologize. I'm in a different location, and I'm currently next to a highway, so if there's any background noise from the highway and all the cars going crazy out there, I do want to offer my apologies. The first thing I want to talk about is if you look into this tweet thread from eric.eth, they decided to sunset EthHub, which was an education resource platform that had a podcast, newsletter, and also a documentation site for the Ethereum ecosystem. It was my favorite resource for Ethereum. It's where I went if I had any questions or wanted to get some more dive deeper into some certain documentation. It's a place that I went to because I thought it was a really good resource. And they say that there was a media gap that used to be in Ethereum during the 2018 bull market, and that's now been taken care of due to other organizations building podcasts and different educational platforms around Ethereum. So the need for something like EthHub is not necessarily there anymore, and they decided to sunset the website and the podcast, etc., so it no longer is in operation. And I will put out just a simple tweet saying thank you to Eric and Anthony Sassano for the work they did there, because it was the inspiration for ZecHub. So if you guys don't really know how I started ZecHub, when I first started working at ECC, I thought an idea that would be really interesting is this idea of like open source community collaboration around education for like non-technical users, to kind of get more people who aren't engineers, who may not be developing in the Zcash ecosystem, more involved in like being a contributor. So I sat on that idea for a few months, and then after kind of looking at the way EthHub did things, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm basically going to fork this repository, and I'm going to do this for Zcash, which is the genesis of like the ZecHub idea and the ZecHub ecosystem. It was all based on the work that Eric and Anthony did, and I just want to say thank you, not only for kind of educating me and using that as a resource for Ethereum, but also inspiring what now is, an open source education platform that is decentralizing and involving a lot more community members within the Zcash ecosystem, and I think that's really, really exciting. So just a massive thank you to them and all the work they did there. And for people who didn't know, that was the genesis of ZecHub. So they were the inspiration. So thank you to Eric and Anthony. So the next bit of stuff I want to cover here is obviously we have something called Zec Weekly. And Zec Weekly is a newsletter that just highlights links in the Zcash ecosystem, right? It hits your inbox, has all the links. If you missed anything, you just click into it and you can read the link and be updated on that piece of news. It is in English, and while it is translated into other languages, when I kind of raised it to the Spanish community and said, hey, like, how would we do this in Spanish? They raised something. They were like, hey, a lot of the information that's getting put out into the newsletter is specifically in English. Even if you click into the link and get brought to that specific news piece, that piece of information is in English. So something that Edixon has done from the Zcash Spanish community is he has created a video outlining the news, and then translating it in real time and giving like an explanation to that for Spanish speakers who might not be able to kind of access English materials as easily as someone who's a native English speaker. So I just want to say massive shout out to the Zcash Spanish community, and I think this is just a wonderful example of the information being democratized into more languages. And I want to say that this is actually hosted on the Zcash Spanish YouTube channel and not the ZecHub channel, which is another really, really cool thing, because I think the big thing about having this information out there is so people can take it and then have it be supplementary to their content mixes within their own channels. This is one of my favorite things I think I've actually seen in kind of managing the hub over the last 7 months. And I just want to give a massive shout out to Edixon and the Zcash Spanish community for getting this information resources out there. So I think this is really cool. I'm going to tweet it out later from the ZecHub account, kind of mentioning it, and if Edixon wants to put a Zatter out there for people to send tips, I'd really highly recommend him tipping us for contribution. It's absolutely fantastic, so really excited there. So let's get into the news. So there's a couple of things I want to cover from each of the newsletters. There was, from this one specifically, I think I wanted to touch into, yes, here, Josh Swihart is going to be speaking. It's going to be this week. He's going to be speaking on a panel with the Secret Summit. So this is from the Secret Foundation. If you're not familiar with the Secret Network, it's a privacy it's a privacy first blockchain that enables like private smart contracts, which is something really cool. They do it a little bit differently. They don't use zero knowledge proofs. They have something called a trusted execution environment, which is, from a technical perspective, a lot different than the approach than something like Zcash or Aztec or something of that nature takes. So they have a different approach, but nonetheless, they're really focused on privacy. And Josh Swihart, who is a senior vice president at the Electric Coin Company, is going to be speaking on a panel there. I think the time has been announced on their Twitter, so I would actually go check out the Secret Network Twitter. I'm going to be amplifying stuff from the ECC Twitter so people can kind of see when that information is coming out. But mark your calendars for December 15th. Josh Swihart will be doing a panel. So that, I think, is what I wanted to cover, because I think, there's a monthly update from the Kedit team around ZSAs, and then Nighthawk. Those were in the forums. And then also, if you are not familiar, JW Verrett, who is now on the board for the Zcash Foundation, is trying to fund something called Crypto Freedom Lab, which is another policy think tank in Washington, D.C., kind of fighting for the right of, developing crypto and using crypto, and really with a strong focus around privacy. He's doing an NFT sale to help fund his operations there, so I would check out this NFT sale to see if it's something that you might want to purchase to fund the good efforts of what JW Verrett is doing with the Crypto Freedom Lab. Remember, JW Verrett, board member at the Zcash Foundation. So that was from 2 weeks ago. So covering like 18th and 19th edition of the Zec Weekly newsletter. Not a ton of stuff that I wanted to cover directly in there. If you want to check out the links in there, that newsletter will be linked in the description. You can check out all the news there and stay up to date. Remember, there are some updates from teams that are receiving grants from ZCG, so that might be something you might be interested in checking out. So want to go to the 20th edition of the newsletter, which was released on Friday. So this is really cool. We made it to 20 editions. I can't believe it, that this is actually like something that's ongoing. And the coolest thing is I'm not the only contributor to the newsletter. We have Squirrel, who's also doing a lot of editions. And then obviously this is being translated into 3 different languages. So really cool to kind of see how this specific piece of content's taken off in the last little while. But let's dive into the last edition. So we did something different I did something different. I curated and wrote this last newsletter, so I did something different. Dismad, if you weren't familiar, did a Zcash doc on Block Explorers, kind of reviewing what a Block Explorer, what it is and what it's visualizing from, the actual data on chain, and was really cool to kind of see that document get out and be written, because it's a really good primer and a really good refresher for people who are more familiar with the technology, just to kind of get a refresher on what a Block Explorer does and what it is, and why the Zcash one stands out in particular. So if you actually go into the doc from the from our Wikidoc site, you can kind of see examples of different Block Explorers: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cosmos, and then Zcash, the public Explorer, which is kind of broadcasting what T addresses are showing, and then also the more private Explorer, which is kind of showing the encrypted transactions on chain. So it's really cool, just kind of going over all of the different things, and it's a really good visualization exercise to kind of come into this right here, seeing that when you're looking on chain at a Z to Z transaction on the Zcash blockchain, all of the transaction data and about that transaction, obviously it's all encrypted, and it's just a really good exercise, because a lot of people obviously are saying that this is the moment when they see this type of transaction on the Zcash blockchain, they're like, wow, it's that wow moment, right? So when you have your ENS name attached to an Ethereum address, and you see all your stuff's public, and you're sending transactions out, and you're like, oh my gosh, everyone can see my shit. It's really cool to kind of run that Zcash transaction and show people an encrypted transaction on the blockchain. It's just a really good reminder to people out there, hey, if you want to keep your data completely encrypted and keep things like payments completely private, then Zcash is a great option for that. So this was a really cool document that Dismad put together, so massive shout out to them. And yeah, really excited to see further documentation being built on the ZecHub Wikidoc. So again, if you have an idea for something like this that you want to build and throw out there, just go into the GitHub, submit a PR. It's under the site section, so if you want to submit a doc, go into site, submit a PR within one of the sections. If you want to create a section, mazel tov, do your thing, right? It's a really cool way to get involved in building stuff, and just want to give a great shout out to Dismad, because they've been crushing it and with all the content putting out. So yeah. Next piece is that there was an update from the Electric Coin Company around the wallet performance and ECC wallet SDKs, so mobile wallet performance related to the ECC wallet SDKs, so that's specific to Nighthawk, Unstoppable, and Edge wallets. So if you go in here and you read the update, really, I think the big update is just saying, like, I think this was actually really well written. And, like, obviously my name's, like, that's me. I'm Janus in the Zcash forums. But I want to say a big shout out to Nate Wilcox for helping me put this together. Like, all the brains behind this was Nate. So it's well written because of Nate's efforts, not mine. So if you read these latter sections of each of the posts, so, integrating diverging Rust libraries to ensure performance improvements and bug fixes are deployed consistently across the iOS and Android mobile SDKs, as well as Zcashd. Then it goes into, this is going to help ensure users which rely on those SDKs that are going to be receiving the performance improvements with better quality assurances, and they're going to be receiving them more promptly, quickly. So if you kind of go into this, it goes into modifying SDK architecture. It talks about the fees here, different optimizations for Zcashd. So it talks about various different things that are eventually going to affect like end users of mobile wallets. So I think the way that this specific forum post was written was really good, because it highlighted, one, the work that ECC was doing, and then two, how that's going to impact end users of Zcashd and then end users of mobile wallets that rely on the ECC wallet SDKs. So if you want to stay up to date on the work that ECC is doing around that, remember, it's ECC's total focus. It's all they're really worried about right now. They're trying to mitigate the performance issues before moving on to different things regarding the Zcash blockchain and various research with things like proof of stake, etc. So I'd really highly recommend checking this post out, because it's going to provide a lot of good information, and then also how that information is going to affect end users using Nighthawk, Unstoppable, Edge, and then also Zcashd. So we've already touched on this bit here with Josh at Secret Network Summit. Check that out, December 15th. Information coming out this week on what time it's going to be. Here, JW Verrett, congratulations. He actually has put out a tweet. This is really old. Like, I think this is from the previous newsletter, but he's actually put out a tweet. He's now on the Zcash board, Zcash board of the Zcash Foundation. So again, congratulations to JW. I think his presence in the space is obviously, he's very well known in Washington. He writes a lot of different columns for things like the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Cointelegraph, just putting really good opinions out there of why privacy is very important. And he's a staunch defender of privacy and the right to transact. So I just think that it's, he's a great addition to the board, and I'm really excited to see him bring his type of personality into Zcash and really, help grow the ecosystem. Yeah, excited to be working with him. I will work with him very minimally, if at all, but excited to be that he's in the ecosystem working with us and working together. So congratulations to JW. And then lastly, we have on December 15th, the same day that Josh is speaking at Secret Summit, I believe, right? The candidates for ZCG will be going on a community call, where they'll be answering questions from the community regarding like potential things they would like to implement should they be elected, and in some cases for some people on here re-elected, to the board of the Zcash Community Grants. So if you're not familiar, Zcash Community Grants is an organization that receives the largest percentage of the Zcash Development Fund. The Zcash Development Fund is a funding mechanism that funds 3 organizations that are fully focused on building and building and educating people around the Zcash protocol. So if you look at this here, ZCG is running an election for the committee members. So it's a committee of 5 people that receive grant proposals, and they meet and then they vote on whether they should fund or not fund those grant proposals. So if we look at here, we've got Wobbs, Jason McGee, Michael Brunchtime Harms, Angst01, Zcash KR, which I believe is Zcash Korea, G-Guy, Thor Thorens, and Ambimorph. Got that. So these are the candidates that are going to be that are standing for election. And if you click into this forum post, again attached in the description here, if you click into this forum post, you can go specifically. So we'll just go to Jason's here, for example. You can go to the post that they're introducing, their candidacy and why they feel they would be a good fit for the open slots. So I think there's 4 spots. 4 of the 5 are open, so these 8 people are going to be vying for 4 spots. The vote will be decided by the Zcash Community Advisory Panel. So listening to the community call and understanding the feedback from the various community members, the Zcash Community Advisory Panel will then take that feedback and then go to a vote, and the vote will decide who the 4 members of the Zcash Community Grants Committee will be. So I just want to say, massive shout out to all the different people. who are actually like running, the 8 people that are running. I think it takes a lot of courage to go out in the open and put yourself out there and stand for an election in the public eye. And I think it's really difficult because obviously only 4 people are going to receive slots, so 4 people are not. So right, it's very difficult to kind of embrace the fact that you might not be elected. But I think going out there and trying to better the Zcash community and the protocol, I think is a very noble thing. So first off, I just want to say massive congratulations and shout out to all the people that are actually running and standing for election. And then lastly, like, I think the community should really get involved with this as much as possible. I think if we kind of look at the ethos of potentially decentralizing Zcash in the future, and getting more organizations like actively building on it, I think this is a really, really important aspect of it, if not maybe the most important aspect of, the Zcash protocol, trying to get more organizations interested in creating a more vibrant developer ecosystem and creating better education materials, etc. Right? Like getting organizations to come in and, be attracted to build there. And that's a large part of what the Zcash community grants has to do. So I would really encourage all of the people within the Zcash community to go into this specific forum post, outline and understand, understand what the process is, attend the community call on the 15th, read the various introductions for people that are standing for election, and then obviously if you're a member of ZCAP, please really take into consideration the various aspects of this decision, and don't take the decision lightly, because I just think it's going to be this process is extremely critical for the future of Zcash, and personally, in my opinion, going into 2023, potentially 2024, however long the bear market lasts, it's going to be a really crucial time to set Zcash up for potential success in the future. So I think these are very important decisions, and I'm really excited to kind of outline. Understand, follow the process and see how everyone's what their opinions are and how they kind of want to approach this process and approach potentially being on the committee. So yeah, I'm super, super excited for it, and I think it's a really good opportunity for these people to come out and voice their opinions and things they would like to see improved within this specific process or the protocol as a whole, and see what changes they would make. So again, shout out to everyone who is running, and I'm super excited to hear the conversations, and yeah, super excited to the future of the grants committee and see who's going to be on there. So yeah, that's my spiel today. So just want to say congratulations to everybody running, and I can't wait to get their feedback and see where this process goes. So appreciate everyone having a listen today to the ZLDR, and if you have any questions or suggestions for this specific piece of content, please just comment in the YouTube section or let me know via DM on Twitter. And if you want to contribute to ZecHub, just go into our GitHub repository, look at the various ways you can contribute, and then just submit a PR or reach out to one of us if you have some questions on how to do that. So again, thank you for everybody's time, and have a great week and happy Monday.